currently trying to ban TikTok.
It's an all-out blitz.
She does vote yes. I will not be voting for her in the primaries, and I will write in a different candidate.
TikTokers taking to their cell phones to literally call on Congress to shoot down a bill that could effectively ban the wildly popular app. The rallying cry coming directly from TikTok itself. Pop-ups on the app urging users to speak up now and warning if passed, the proposed bill would destroy the livelihoods of countless creators. Anna Jones in Montana sells handmade metalworks on TikTok and says she's going to call.
What are you going to ask your congressperson to do actionably?
Advocate for the small businesses.
But Democrats and Republicans are on the same page. And if
now, just so you guys know, this started during the Trump administration as well, that they were thinking about banning TikTok altogether as well. So this is not new. It's not new to the Biden administration. This is just a continuation of what was started during the last administration.
50-0 vote, advancing a bill on Wednesday that would force Chinese company ByteDance to sell TikTok within 6 months, citing national security concerns.
China is at war with us, and they use TikTok as a weapon.
If ByteDance fails to sell, the app will be banned nationwide. TikTok concerned about being able to divest that quickly, while in a statement characterizing the legislation as a total ban. The chief concern, critics say, protecting U.S. data from the Chinese government, which TikTok has repeatedly denied.
ByteDance is not owned or controlled by the Chinese government.
He is right on those statements he said. However, it's not owned by the Chinese government and it's not controlled by the Chinese government. However, the Chinese government, because they're doing business, your headquarters is in China, they can request any information on the app that they want, including information on the U.S. Users. So that is why the U.S. is moving forward with this.
It's a private company.
For creators like Anna Jones, the concerns are real.
I just feel like losing TikTok will just it'll have everything go downhill, and I don't want to.
And for a total ban, it's really, it's up in the air. If ByteDance doesn't want to sell the company, then of course it's going to be banned. However, if ByteDance, why not discontinue? Why not sell the company, to a, I guess, a U.S. base person that wants to buy it or entity that wants to buy it? It makes perfect sense, to be honest.
Lose my business.
He's giving one of the world's most popular social media platforms an ultimatum: divest from China or TikTok will be banned in the U.S. The House today overwhelmingly voted in favor of a bill that requires ByteDance, that's the Chinese parent company of TikTok, to sell the app within 6 months or face a national ban. It was a landslide vote, 352 to 65, with many lawmakers arguing the app poses a threat to national security because the Chinese government could force ByteDance to hand over data on its roughly 170 million American users, which is alleged to be useful to China for disinformation campaigns and even identifying U.S. intelligence targets. TikTok's own.
I personally, most of the things I don't like if it's coming from China. As far as technology is concerned, to be honest, they have their hands in a lot of things, not just TikTok, but also CapCut is one of them. Another company, I think Temu, and then Shein, whatever it is, AliExpress, all those companies, are tied to China in some way or the other. So I think if you're going to ban TikTok, then you may have to move forward on legislation to probably ban all the other ones or try to limit their information on the other companies that are linked to China also. But unfortunately, if this goes through, if I was TikTok and I care about the users, I would just sell it, but this is about money, this is business, and they may not care about the users and the creators about losing their livelihood, right? So in the matter of national security, what is a person to do, right? What is the government who is there supposed to protect us? I think they are, I think the U.S. government is definitely moving in the right direction to ban it if they don't sell.
Has denied those accusations, and China today responded by equating the ban to a, quote, act of bullying. Every member of New Jersey's House delegation voted yes, except Representative Andy Kim, who didn't vote and wasn't in D.C., but said in a statement it would have been a no. He wants Congress to take up a more comprehensive bill protecting user data across all social media platforms. The bill now faces an uphill battle in the Senate, but there are plenty of groups who agree with Kim and say this is a free speech issue. For more on that, I'm joined by Nadine Farid Johnson, Policy Director of the Knight First Amendment Institute at Columbia University. Nadine, thanks so much for giving us a bit of your insight today. The Institute has said that there are potential implications here when it comes to the First Amendment. What are your concerns?
Thank you so much for having me. Our concerns are fundamentally this is an affront to the First Amendment because Americans should have the right to access information via the social media platform of their choosing.
I agree with that. However, if you ask around, if you guys don't know, there's a different version of TikTok in the US and also a different version in China. So all those nonsense videos that they send the United States, they don't have those in China. So there's definitely a plan there that's being implemented in order to show the U.S. users, all 170 million of them, a different version of TikTok. So there's definitely a hidden agenda there.
Are there other avenues, though, that Congress could pursue that you see a straightforward path to protect data privacy and security, which is what they have made the big point here, the issue?
That's exactly right. Because they have made data privacy the issue here, and there's some discussion here about what could be happening to Americans' data via the use of TikTok. Well, what Congress could do and what Congress should do is to pass comprehensive data privacy legislation. That would not only preclude the release of Americans' data to apps such as TikTok, but also to other apps such as those that are controlled by Meta and other organizations. It's critical to understand here that there are other pathways for Congress to take that would be less burdensome on the First Amendment. And that's what we would encourage Congress to do.
There's historical precedent here, though. I'm thinking about in 2020 when the U.S. successfully got China to divest from the dating app Grindr, also citing national security issues. Does that not rise to the same level here when we're talking about a foreign adversary potentially having access to info on more than 100 million users in America?
Well, again, the key here is that if this bill were to pass, now we know it has passed the House, if it were to pass the Senate, again, we believe there are significant First Amendment concerns with it. But ultimately, this bill does not solve the base issue, which is that there are platforms that have access to Americans' data.
Yes, however, they're not, some of them or most of them are not linked to China. I think that's what she's not letting people know here. Most of those apps are not linked to China.
Options for TikTok's US operations. There's a lot to discuss, but the big step in the House has been taken. Now we move to the Senate.
And still much potential pushback from the Senate, and notably a CEO who went there to lobby just those senators yesterday. Let's get into it with Alex Barinka. And Alex, we understand, according to people familiar, that Shou Chew was indeed looking to target senators in particular.
He was. I think the TikTok team saw this bill potentially flying through the House like it did today, getting that majority vote in just the past few minutes. The next hurdle for them will be the Senate. Majority Leader Chuck Schumer in the Senate has so far not said that he would take up this bill. TikTok also put out a statement today appealing to senators saying, quote, "This process was secret and the bill was jammed through for one reason. It's a ban. We are hopeful that the Senate will consider the facts, listen to their constituents, and realize the impact on the economy." So certainly TikTok CEO Shou Chew, who was down in D.C., is going to be spending his time in the Senate, hoping that while this is the furthest a anti-TikTok bill has gone in the U.S. government, that it ends here.
It's not just that Chuck Schumer has not endorsed the bill, it's that there is a bigger concern here as well. And Bloomberg's reporting this idea that even on the Republican side of the aisle, they look at this bill more big picture. Why do we hand these powers to the administration and give them such sort of a blanket power for censorship to make a decision on TikTok. So that's there in the background. But I think I'm right in saying, Alex,
Okay, well, if you don't like them, vote them out. You know what I mean? So we can vote.
TikTok's always said that it's going to mount a legal challenge to the idea that it would have to divest or sell its US operations anyway.
Yeah, you're right. I think it was summed up pretty succinctly to our DC colleagues by Republican Senator Thom Tillis out of North Carolina, who said yesterday that he's worried about the unintended consequences of a bill like this. Now, it's been fascinating, Ed, to kind of watch the battle with TikTok in DC, because Republicans writ large have been some of the biggest agitators against TikTok. Some of that did change in the past week when we had Donald Trump himself, when he was the president who put the first executive order forward to ban TikTok, actually come out and say a few days ago, well, maybe we shouldn't do that because it would give Meta too much power. So certainly we have some wrangling.
I like to say, yeah, I think a lot of those users would either go to Meta, which Facebook, Instagram, and I don't know if anything's going on in WhatsApp yet, but they would definitely benefit from a TikTok ban. And also, there would be a spot for another up-and-coming social media network, right? And where we have X, they would benefit from a ban on TikTok, and I'm not sure Reddit, but definitely X and Meta would benefit from that.
Here, not only over whether or not this bill actually addresses concerns or if national security concerns have actually been made clear to the lawmakers, but also how much power this would give the government, this would give the executive branch in kind of.
I actually don't think it's a power-hungry move. You're the government, and of course the intelligence community have seen. There are classified information that they've seen that what ByteDance is doing, and that the Chinese government has asked TikTok for information. So it's even though the majority of Americans, I guess you can say, if it's even the majority, the people at least that use the TikTok, they don't agree with the ban, but it's an issue of national security here, as someone said before. So do you protect the people or just give them the freedom to do whatever they want? But I think protecting the people is more important, because you have other social media networks that you can use, YouTube being one of them. TikTok doesn't have to be it. And plus, you can sell the company. It's not an outright ban, but you can sell it.
Ruling over the private sector.
And I point out that in that moment that the House passed the bill, there was a big spike in Meta. It is still lower 0.7%. But of course, TikTok's user base and its platform is highly analogous with Meta's Instagram short-form video vertical. Bloomberg's Alex Barinka has done a masterful job of covering all of that. That is that spike in Meta shares that I showed you, but then an immediate pullback. Right, so sources say that TikTok intends to exhaust all legal challenges before it considers any kind of divestiture from its Chinese parent company, ByteDance. Let's bring in David Glancy, Institute of World Politics Professor and Strategy and Statecraft, and Annenberg Chair of International Communication, for his point of view. For many, David, this was a foregone conclusion. Divest or be banned. Is it as simple in your mind?
I think from the national
security standpoint, it is really. It is.
Security community, it's a pretty simple issue. It is a potential threat to national security because of its reach, the way the software is, the potential to influence, but also the close relations. It is a Chinese company. And there was a report that came out just on Monday, an unclassified report on threats, a threat assessment, and China was prominently featured in that. And China's activities in the last few years have been much more aggressive. They've been working with adversaries like Russia and Iran more closely. And so I think there's real concerns. And from the national security community, it should have been done probably years ago.
I agree. It should have been done years ago, because like I said, it started with the Trump administration. Now finally moving forward with the Biden administration. And I hope the Senate does approve this bill, and ask TikTok to sell the company or be banned. However, on the other side, though, for the creators, I mean, there's people that have their whole livelihood on that. So what do they do from a business standpoint? Honestly, it just goes to show you that don't put your all your eggs in one basket. However, in the matter of national security, it definitely needs to be banned, seriously.
Now, of course, we know that this has been considered for a long time in terms of the worries of Chinese influence. And TikTok itself, Shou Chew himself, has gone to lengths to say, look, we can alleviate that. Project Texas, for example, ensuring that Oracle is in some way facilitating the way in which data is read or indeed not transferred to China. How much have you read into, well, the ability for that to ease any of your concerns?
The fact that it's a Chinese company and still has to abide by Chinese laws, which, when push comes to shove, would require data transfers.
Absolutely. So they can, ByteDance, the parent company, can try to say, okay, well, they do this and that. But at the end of the day, what this gentleman said, that it's a Chinese company and you still have to abide by Chinese law.
The other major concern is their algorithm and the ability to potentially push influence messaging that we wouldn't be able to detect in real time. It would be really difficult to detect some of their longer term influence activities if they were to shift their algorithm for more malign purposes. And that's a real concern for the national security community.
David, 170 million Americans use TikTok, and many of them like it. Are they being represented in this process?
I think the Senate's going to have its say. I think the fact that it's been delayed for a number of years and there hasn't been action, that's a testament that they have been. There's been a voice for those folks in the process. So I think we have a system of laws and rules and ways to appeal, and there's a lot of different avenues for people to have their voices heard. And I think that's a strength of the U.S. From the national security community, at least, this is sort of a no-brainer that the action should have happened a while ago.
You've worked in the State Department, the Defense Department. If this doesn't go through, what does that mean for China?
Which I think it is going to go through.
I'm actually a little bit concerned. If the Chinese government thinks that it can block policy action on important issues by appealing to domestic political factions or special interests, then I think that makes a more dangerous world. That may embolden the Chinese to be more aggressive, and it increases the potential for direct U.S.-China conflict in the years ahead.
Yeah, I agree. If this doesn't pass, it's a win for China, right? So you're not, in the short term, it's going to be a win for the creators, those who have their whole livelihoods on TikTok. However, long term, it's a win for China. So
we want to thank you for your time, your expertise, Institute of World Politics Professor of Strategy and Statecraft and Annenberg Chair of International Communication. That's David Glancy. We thank you.
All right.